In this example, we are going to convert a polar coordinate, which is in terms of a radius and an angle measurement, into a rectangular equation. So it's more of a x's and y's. So we're going to start with, let me rewrite this, 1 minus cosine theta. I'm going to start by clearing out my fraction, which means I'm going to multiply this over to the other side, 1 minus cosine theta, just to clear out my fraction. And I'm going to distribute on the left. So I'm going to have an r minus r cosine theta equals 1. All right, so now basically I've cleared out my fraction, and this is kind of some of the relationships that I can sub out. That if I have an r cosine theta, I can replace it with an x. If I have an r sine theta, I can replace it with a y. And if I have an r, I can replace it with that square root, which isn't all that great, but we can kind of deal with that then. So we do have an r, so we can replace that. So that's going to be square root of x squared plus y squared, and then minus r cosine theta, which is x. So minus x, and then that's going to equal 1. All right. So as far as subbing it out, that's it. We're done with the converting it from polar to rectangular was that substitution. But now we got to do some cleanup on this. Okay. So I have a square root that I like to get rid of. So let me isolate the square root so I can square both sides. So I'm going to bump the x over. So then that's going to be a positive x plus 1. And I'd still have this square root over here. Okay. Now to get rid of a square root, I'm going to need to square both sides. Square both sides. So if I square this, the square root goes away, and I get x squared plus y squared. And then on the right-hand side, I'd distribute this out, I'd FOIL it out. And if I FOIL that out, I'd have x plus 1 times another x plus 1, which would be x squared plus 2x plus 1. So if I try to kind of combine stuff, I can see that my x squares are going to cancel each other. And I'm going to get a parabola, and it's going to be a sideways parabola because of the y that's being squared. So it's a conic. So I'm going to go ahead and isolate the x, get that by itself. There's a couple different ways that you could you could basically get the y squared by itself. And then if you're actually going to graph this, it's where you're going to want to factor out the 2. But there's a couple different ways. So I'm going to just, for whatever, I'm going to get the x by itself. So I'm going to subtract the 1 over. So that's a y squared minus 1 is going to equal 2x. And then I'll divide by 2. So I divide by 2. So that would give me an x equals y squared minus 1 divided by 2. Okay. So if I wanted to get it y squared by itself, then I would have basically, I almost pretty much had it. And then if I needed to graph it, I would have factored it out. So, but that's a different approach as well. Depends if you want to type it into Desmos and kind of get a look for it. But that is our rectangular form.